today we have Ali Safri. Ali is the Chief Technology Officer for Avanza Innovations, working with Avanza Innovations for over 3 years now, which is a subsidiary of Avanza Solutions. And you're part of Avanza Solutions for over 10 years. It's very great.
Yeah.
Um, Avanza Innovations been working in the public sector as well as the private sector, implementing many solutions for the white government, state government, and for financial institutions. Would you please tell us, Ali, about Avanza and what are the plans? What you guys been doing in the ecosystem? Please go ahead.
What we are doing across is that we are working on the cutting edge technologies which would gear up the fourth industrial revolution. So in the area of, of the blockchain, for example, we have done a lot of implementations and we are seeing every day and being excited about the possibilities, how we can actually innovate with any life cycle or the ways the things are done. So we are working with the banks to change across and create consortiums, solving different problems. We are working with the governments to solve different problems on the blockchain. We were working with the government of Dubai in a number of projects. We are working with, for example, RTA as an organization to create a vehicle chain that is actually from the time a vehicle is imported across or to the time when it is just scrapped across, the whole life cycle of the vehicle is tracked. We are working with customs, for example, to create e-commerce chains. So all the e-commerce transactions which are exported to other countries, and if there are any returns that comes across that are stamped on a blockchain network, to reconciliation of the government funds, to Dubai Police as an organization, that if there are lost passport, there are certain type of NOCs required from multiple entities that are automated using blockchain. Companies like telcos, like Etisalat over here, their Smiles loyalty program, or UTC network, which is a consortium of 10 plus banks trying to solve the invoice financing problem, to SAGP, which is the Sindh Agriculture Growth Project. They have a concept of a framework agreements, which is a World Bank initiated construct, so that the farmers could be benefited by getting from an open marketplace subsidized equipment so that their harvest could be increased. So all the supply chain from the time the farmers are onboarded to the program, suppliers delivering the product to the delivery to the farmer, everything tracked, open to the public, so that it is very well auditable. Everything is on the blockchain. We just went live, and the platform is called Collaborex. And as per World Bank, this is replicatable across multiple other countries because the beneficiary here is a farmer who is like harvesting crops like rice, onion, chili, and in other cases, maybe it is a fishery for which a fisherman is there. He requires certain equipment, or maybe for the COVID-19, it is the equipment that is required by a certain beneficiary, which are the patients, or it could be, for example, the solar power equipment which is required. So it is basically the equipment in the beneficiary change, but the overall life cycle remains the same. So there are promises that it might be replicated in other areas in other countries as well. So let's hope for how it goes forward.
That's really awesome. I'm so excited to hear that. Ali, I mean, since it's been officially announced by Microsoft, so I'm very lucky to have to discuss this firsthand with you. Congratulations on winning the project. Yeah, please tell us about the Sindh government and Collaborex and then Microsoft partnership initiative with World Bank.
Okay, so yeah, it started that SAGP as a Sindh Agriculture and Growth Project, that is a World Bank funded project. So these guys did an excellent task. They went into an international procurement related challenge, and they won based on a prototype to automate the framework agreements based on blockchain. So they had this particular concept realized, and it is the brain which is we have in Pakistan, that they realize that something should be in blockchain. Then they work with the World Bank and they started the project. We participated in the RFP. We got that particular project along with Microsoft, and now we have delivered this particular project. So yeah, this is how
So you
it all
guys are the
started.
implementation partners? Are you
Yes,
helping
we
them?
are the implementation partners, and
Oh,
it utilizes Microsoft Azure.
yeah.
So components are deployed on Microsoft Azure. So that's how it works.
Okay. So, I mean, for layman, please, for the our audience, would you be please explaining this, like how it's gonna help Sindh government and how
Okay,
what are the benefits there is going to be?
okay. So what happens is that there is a concept of a framework agreement. Framework agreement is something that if there is a requirement to procure certain equipments, like for example, there are rotovoters or there are terraplane sheets, so they perform an open tender. So the supplier is selected, and based on a specific start and end date, the price is locked that you are going to provide the products, how much we specify based on this particular price. Now there are other conditions with are the qualification criteria for the farmers that okay, based on a CNIC you can only apply for one product, or if you have land record which indicates that you are a rice crop harvester with less than 10 acre of land, then you qualify. So all of these rules are encoded and run as a smart contract. Now, there is an open marketplace where the farmer can log in. They can ask for the application. The system verifies that okay, the application is correct, and that way across the province of Sindh, the demand is generated. The smart contract look at this particular demand and then automatically send the purchase order to the supplier. This way, the supplier will deliver the products, and somebody from the SADP implementation teams, they will put the receipt, they will put the delivery, that okay, this item is delivered across, we'll put the inspection report, and all this tracing goes into the blockchain. And finally, when the farmer is being provided with the equipment, that is also stamped across onto the blockchain. So this overall life cycle is quite much transparent. Somebody can go and verify, okay, what POs were issued on what prices, what were the SLAs that were followed across, what farmer, what thing is going across. So this is how it creates transparency, it creates immutability of records, and this is
That's
the
awesome.
great
I mean,
initiative.
I really think it's a paradigm shift looking at our region, especially in Pakistan. This is a start, and I think it's going to. This is a start to many more government initiatives in future, obviously, and I'm
Yes,
sure Avanza is going to be part of it as well in future.
yes,
Uh, could you?
yes. And one other aspect that is over here that they realize is that it started from the perspective of transparency, but because of this COVID, another benefit was that previously people have to visit and then they have to apply for the application, they have to do the payments, and they have to come and collect the equipment. Now there is a open ecosystem, marketplace, farmers can log in, and uh, even if they could not, somebody can help them log in to apply for those particular equipments. So that way, in the COVID era as well, they can work. This would not actually stop. So that's how that's a good thing.
I have a question here, Ali. See, in our last session with Hasib Bhawan, we were discussing about financial inclusion. We were discussing how we can have those unbanked or the underbanked in the financial system. So Hasib was saying that first we need to help the farmer first. We need to help the unbanked and the underbanked with their day-to-day problems. Once we solve
Yeah,
that, then only once they get hold of technology, once they start using, because at this moment,
yeah.
education is the biggest problem right now for them. I mean, they're shy with the technology. So with this collaborates, how sure or how confident you are, or how confident you guys are with this project that at the user end or at the farmer end, he will not have any problems in using the technology and in taking the more benefit out of it.
Yeah, so usability is one angle, but what SAGP, along with that, as a this is like the digital face. But again, what they do is that buying an equipment is not the only thing. they have to know, they need to be trained about how to utilize that thing in a better manner. So what they have currently done is that they have complete training units with even portable cinemas. So they go there, they gather, show them how the things work. So they train them as well on how to utilize the things. So this would be a challenge for them because there would be many people, those who are digitally aware, those who are not aware. But yes, this training is very, very much important. So to actually go and buy the stuff online from this particular marketplace.
Awesome. That's an excellent approach, Ali. I think let's move on to our main topic, which is the convergence of blockchain, AI, and IoT. But saying that, many congratulations on winning the project, as well as we will get back to you in future and talk more about this project, inshallah.
Okay, sure.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
So moving back to our topic, which is convergence of AI, blockchain, AI, and IoT. So how do you see this? I mean, since you've been in the landscape, I mean, we've been part of this community thing since over 2 years now. So you've seen the landscape, when the hype came, and then all the fluff and the scammers and this dump and pump schemes. But at the same time, whatever is left now, I won't say everything, but whatever is left now, it's actually practical solutions people working on. So air is being cleared. So saying that, what do you see in future, and especially in the region where you are in Dubai, how things are moving as compared to Pakistan?
Okay, so yeah, so things are moving across in a positive direction. Again, as you specified, there was a lot of fluff around, for example, blockchain, and it was a kind of a token gamble that was happening across. But at the same time, what is happening is that the technology is gradually maturing as well. It is being adopted as well. And combination for the IoT, blockchain, and AI, it's quite much natural because of the roles that they have. What IoT concerns about is that there are a lot of sensors across the world, even outpassing the number of humans. They are collecting data. Now they are good at collecting data, but they don't know how to process that particular information, how to make patterns out of that particular data. But what they are good at is collecting a lot of data. Now, blockchain comes with its two promises as an independent entity. It says that, okay, there is data, I can securely disseminate the data across multiple places. For this data, this has to be identifiable. So once you put this data or stamp onto the blockchain, you would require to put it along with certain signatures. So that makes it trustable data. So it is not anonymous data. It is somebody stamping on that data on it. So it is trusted data. It comes with the concept of the smart contract. So based on this trusted data, it can make certain decisions and inform the other participants about those particular decisions. But that is like predictive decisions based on hard-coded rules within the smart contract. Now, AI, which is one another data-thirsty technology, it has now a lot of data, which is also trusted because it is not coming from one centralized source. It is on a distributed marketplace. This data is present. Now, it can make sense of this particular data, learn based on it, and feed yet the decision back to the chain, whereby smart contracts will operate and it will work in a tandem. So the relationship among these technologies is quite much natural. So that's why naturally there would be a convergence among them. So this is yeah.
Basically convergence of these three technologies we were discussing. Now, I mean, let's start with blockchain. I mean, at blockchain right now, we are discussing the convergence of these three technologies, but at this moment, currently, as we speak, even blockchain has many issues. I mean, it has many challenges to overcome right now. Let's talk about scalability, interoperability. Yes. All these things, they need to evolve. They need to be sorted first. So what is your approach or Avanza's approach? And is there any framework already you guys are working on? or how do you see to overcome these challenges?
Okay, so currently where, like for example, in the Dubai or the GCC region, what is happening is that individual blockchain consortiums have come up, they have tested across their releases and even moved to the production. Now, what is happening across is that multiple networks now want to talk to each other. So there, these kind of interoperability problems have started to emerge. So again, one of the things is that most of the implementations over here are on Hyperledger Fabric. So what is happening across that interoperability is a little bit easier. But again, we are seeing scenarios whereby one network is being operated on Corda, another network is working on Hyperledger Fabric. So these interoperability problems are coming across. Right now, there are no native solutions that bind across these chains. There are ways at the application level to cater to these things by taking the transaction from both the chains and where they interact, creating another proof on a third chain. So that way, interoperability is also coming up into this particular arena. But again, it would not be wise to say that it has matured. In the maturity curve, blockchain as a consortium, which is solving a specific problem that has matured. It is not in POCs, it is in production. How different chains talk together, that is still an evolving discipline. And in the next few years, this would also be streamlined because this is how naturally things evolve. Initially, there are streets that are laid out, and then there are highways, and then there are super highways. So this is how communication happens, right? So we are hopeful that within this area there would be maturity in the future as well.
Any use cases, Ali? Any use cases in terms of the blockchain framework which is sort of evolved in these challenges, or
Okay, so yeah.
especially tell us something about Cypher.
Okay, so one of the things that we realized in the very beginning when we were seeing across that there are many players who want to provide a blockchain layer. Like we were seeing across, Ethereum was there, Hyperledger Fabric had started with many different versions of Hyperledger, then there was a Corda. So when we started our work, we thought about that where should we invest or what should be our selling point or a point of distinction. We said that, okay, these people will come up with different type of blockchains. How do we come up with a proposition so that we create certain interoperable network at an application level, because we cannot do it at the native level. If somebody can come up with a solution, we can like write over it. What are the different areas that are required to stitch blockchain with the existing ecosystem? So we come with the dozens of microservices that are required to fast track the adoption for the enterprises so that they can connect legacy plane with the blockchain plane. So this is what we came up with Cypher. So interoperability among the blockchains as well as interoperability of the legacy with the blockchain. So that's how it can carve out solutions which are working in the real world as well.
Awesome, because a lot of CIO, the chief information officers I met in the financial services, they have this very question that they want to know how they can connect their legacy system to the blockchain networks, and that's a question which puzzles them all the time. So this is a really good solution what you have in terms of Cypher. So moving on, next question, sir. I mean, obviously we know that the trinity of these three technologies, blockchain, AI, and IoT, can do the magic. But at the same time, do we have a convergent infrastructure which can appetite or take the amount of shared data which is being transferred through the IoT system into the AI? Then the AI selects all these data, picks up all these data, makes sense out of it, and then stores it in the blockchain. I mean, is there a convergent infrastructure for all this?
So the convergent infrastructure is also evolving at the same time. Like we take it across layer by layer. At the very bottom, we have hardware, right? So we have processing units available. We have networks that send across the data here and there, and we have storage available, right? This is the traditional technology stack that we work on. But if we want to have certain convergent infrastructure, there would be changes as well because a normal processor might not be utilized. There would be things like this Intel SGX hardware, whereby it can process the transaction in a privacy preserving manner. So there would be that kind of hardware that will be required across as well. In terms of storage, things like, for example, the IPFS systems would be required because you require now peer-to-peer sharing of the information across not everyone, but enough information is shared across. Like if there is a file or information, it is broken down into shards. Shards are distributed across. So whoever he wants to reconstruct, there is high availability of data, there is stability of data, not the complete copy with everyone. So these kind of infrastructures need to evolve. And at the network layer, the hardware needs to evolve as well because, and we are seeing across things like in the like telecommunication, there are newer standards coming up to fasten up the speeds and the bandwidth required. So it is going into the right direction because IoT would require that bandwidth. Yeah, so this 5G technology, so that we have is evolving up. Now, one other element that is very, very much important. If you're talking with blockchain, keys are the most important thing because that is your identification. How do you store the keys? Right now, HSMs are utilized maybe in the banks, but that has to be a mainstream hardware if we want to talk about. So this is one layer, which is basically the hardware. On top of it, we need data dissemination mechanism or the distribution mechanism. A lot of data is coming across. How do we actually send out the data across? So existing protocols, like for example, for IoT, there are a number of standards like Zigbee and LoRaWAN and MQTT, or those are more suitable if there is an IoT hub, thus data could be shared. Again, it has to be distributed because a centralized IoT hub is not something which can scale up. How much data it will take across, right? So if we need to decentralize, there are protocols like, for example, Ocean Protocol or IOTA. So those kind of protocols have to be mainstream so that the data could be disseminated. So that's the second distribution challenge that needs to be taken care of. Third is the routing challenge. What will happen is that nobody agrees on a shared set of protocols or specifications. There would be many different specifications that will come up ultimately, right? So how do interoperate among them? Like within the IoT world, there are many protocols. Within the blockchains, there are many blockchains. With the AI, there are different sort of models. All of these layers need to see how to talk with the number of standard that are available. So uh, routing mechanism needs to be in place. It has to be scalable. So this has to evolve as well. On top of it, it would be coming the identification layer. Identification, as we know, what happens right now, we have gone from paper-based identification, like for example, my national ID card, which is a printed card, electronic documents for my identification, to SSO within the organization, to federated identities, like for example, Facebook, where one organization control my identity, I can go and connect at every place. The last level of evolution, which is the next level of evolution, which is a self-sovereign identity. Identity is an important part. If I cannot identify myself as a human or a device through this big distributed network, no tamper-proofing could be achieved, no identification could be achieved, and the overall processing cannot be achieved, right? So this is an important parallel technology. So for example, technologies like Evernym, and you would have heard of Hyperledger NT project. So these self-sovereign identity-based systems which work on the verifiable claims, these are the requirement that should be there as part of this overall stack. And on top of it, we would have the user interface element, how you interact with the system, because these are underlying layers, right? Somebody has to interact. So normally how system to system interaction happens is based on APIs. But again, at that level, everybody has to learn how to interact with the smart contracts or how to interact with the AI layers. So those kind of things needs to be come up. There are excellent concepts as well, that there are autonomous agents that could be created. So what could happen is that the possibility is that and there are concepts like fetch.ai, one of the company which is raising this concept of autonomous economic agent. So right now what happens, I have to plan my trip. I go to multiple websites and trying to find out something that suits me. These autonomous agents, I'll just tell the conditions. They will go across, and since a lot of IoT data is coming across from everywhere, uh, data it has to purchase from somewhere. It can take it from a distributed network. Based on that, it can use AI to come up with the decision that what is the most economic value I can derive from it. And then on my behalf, it can book that particular transaction, and based on my identification using crypto tokens, it can pay across the other party as well. So this would be the next layer that will evolve in terms of how to interact with this ecosystem. So there would be distributed marketplace. Right now, there's a lot of focus on open data, like that for the governments, okay, for all the government agencies, they publish the data, right? Because you don't know how anybody wants to utilize that particular data. So there is a lot of concept of open data. But again, that gets into this GDPR privacy related issues, what my data is compromised, right? So the next level of evolution is that my data is available, it is on a distributed marketplace, not with some giants like Facebook and Google, but if my data I share, I get benefit based on it. And there are a number of projects as well, like one of the concept was DAT tokens. Okay, if I share my personal information, then I get paid for it. And at that particular layer, there could be other marketplaces as well. So it could be the IoT data, sensors data, that there is a marketplace on which I can write applications. Then there is my personal data based on which I can write applications. Then there are AI models that have learned something. I can buy those models uh, via my smart contract, which is interacting with it and then taking decisions on my behalf. So that could be other marketplaces. So all these marketplaces will evolve unless and until there's a maturity in all these things. The real benefit for a smart city would not be realized. So yes, this is an evolving space, but yet we cannot say it has matured. Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, I was actually talking to you about the interoperability of blockchain, but what you're saying is right now that all these three technologies will be talking to each other, communicating to each other, and there will be a time that's scary at the same time, because I'm thinking about myself, and I'm a sort of a privacy centric person. So data privacy, as you rightly said, is going to be a major issue, major challenge, because if you're driving on the road in a car and somehow any of your private activity is being tracked by any of the companies or the government, how will you make sure that that data is going to stay private and nobody will actually use it? So that is one question. The other question is the ethical use of technology. I mean, fine, government is using it, the private sector is using it, and they have a model, they have a framework, and it's transparent. We know what's going on. But at the same time, there are, we all know, there are many dirty players in the scene, and whenever there's a paradigm shift or an evolution in technology, there are good players and the bad players. So is there a framework for ethical use of technology at this very moment, or anything is going to happen in future?
Okay, so ideas and models are evolving. Like for example, if we talk about, let's say, AI, so what will happen is that AI needs data. If you will not give it data, AI is useless, right? Because it is data hungry, Model will learn based on test data, and then they can only deliver the result. Now, there is research happening on this particular thing as well, that if there is some training data set, and if the model is available, is the training data set privacy preserving? Okay, once the AI model has learned, can I infer the data back? What about the input? It is privacy preserving. What about the models? Are they privacy preserving? What about the output? Are they privacy preserving? Then people have come up with interesting idea as well, that okay, why data needs to go to the model? It could happen that there is a distributed application whereby my account is data is securely logged in my account. The model wants to learn. I'll give permission to that particular model. It can come, do the processing on the edge on my device, my mobile device or my controlled computer. It can infer the things across, pay me for my data, and then it can take whatever observations it want to take without touching my data. So there would be a paradigm shift in which information is actually processed across. In the terms of the blockchain, it is a general concept that, okay, what will happen? Okay, the data is distributed across everyone. That's not necessary. What will happen is that as part of my information publishing on the blockchain, I could put certain identifier indicating that I have this kind of information, right? So information is stored on my own controlled servers or on my own controlled devices. What will happen? Will just indicate this kind of information I have. Whoever wants to access, and then there could be a transaction outside blockchain whereby I share my data with them, and that way I can be paid across for those particular transactions. The decision could be taken by the smart contracts. So a lot of work is required on that front as well. And yes, it is a patchy work. People are coming up to solve specific problems related to IoT or blockchain or AI. But unless and until this privacy preserving becomes a first class citizen of this particular stack, there would definitely be privacy problems. The ethical use of the technology as well. Uh, there are many variables till now. So since it's an evolving technology stack, so things can go wrong, and then because it is all automated, it can then drastically go wrong. Let's say, for example, blockchain relies on cryptography, strong cryptography, right? There are hashes that are created across. You can say, okay, SHA-512, it is a very secure hash, for example. But what if technologies like quantum computing evolve and making those hashes to be solved is becomes a very small problem? And everything, and let's say within the 10 years a lot of things goes into the blockchain, and everybody's saying, okay, this is secure, all my data is secure, everything is there, and after 10 years something comes like this. So anybody who finds out loophole, they can do a destruction at a very massive scale. So with automation, problem could be solved in faster ways, but it could be misused in faster ways as well. So again, ideas are evolving across as, okay, how it is quantum resistant in terms of blockchain. So what things will happen? So these would be the aspects that would be considered. But again, evolution happens in this way, right? Step by step, you learn, adapt. There are failures, then you stand by it, and then you revise the solution, and that's how the technology works.
This reminds me, I'm sorry to interfere, Ali, this reminds me, this is like the process of evolution, and this reminds me when internet started as well. I mean, there were so many people who was talking about so many things, but look how it has evolved. I mean, now we're talking about Web 3.0 as well. So let's see how things will
and my take is that if anything is an economic incentive, it improves certain factors for all the players. Those things are incorporated across because people, organizations and governments think from a forward-looking perspective. They see certain advantages. They want those technologies to be implemented as well. So certain things would have to happen. Otherwise, the overall ecosystem will not remain stable. So they will go on. There would be evolutions, and those who would lose will die out. But there would be evolution.
Yeah, I think market has this appetite for a mature technology, and if there are flaws and there are a few doubts in the technology itself, obviously part of the evolution, people will again get back to it. They will fix it and it will grow. That's how things work. Even in we look at the open source community. I mean, that's how they are working as well. They are volunteering from all over the world, and they're fixing it, bugs in it. But see, there's one thing which puzzles me quite a lot when we talk about AI-based decision making. I mean, I don't know how that AI is making that decision, and I have no idea if that decision was wrong or dangerous, who to talk to. I mean, is it the developer, his fault is this, or is it the person who's enabling it, it's his fault, or who do we catch in terms of if a decision goes wrong?
Okay, so this is one another problem. So when technology will evolve, such kind of things will come up, and there would be a legal framework to cover these things that will evolve with time as well as it goes mainstream. Because it always happens that things come a little bit mainstreams, and then laws come afterwards to align based on that. Think of it this problem like this: when there were horses across and the new car came up, so people started to make the roads as well. Now let's say, for example, on the road there was some bump, somebody got an accident. Now what would we thought of at that point in time? The person who built the road, he should be actually caught for this accident, or the person who is the driver who should be caught for this accident, or the car manufacturer should be caught for this particular accident. So this would be a natural question at that point in time. People would have asked, what actually happens? Now, whoever drives that car, it is his problem. There would be some legal covering based on that. There would be rules that would be cleared out. But what generally happens is that the technologies are matured, standards are also created. Like if we see a product, if I buy a product from Amazon, there would be certain security compliance that needs to be done for that. So maybe if there would be an AI-based algorithm that is taking a decision, in order for it to be ready for market, there would be certain regulatory authority that will give a certificate that yes, your algorithm is fine, and you can release it to the public, and then liability will shift. What I think is that the liability will most probably would be on the consumers. It would not be for those who create the algorithms or those who create the hardware, because that would be covered by those particular regulatory authorities who will give them certain certificates based on the safety and compliance mechanisms that would be there. So let's see how it goes, but it's an open question till now.
I mean, there was this new initiative called VChain. Did you go through it? What VChain is doing, that they're building an ecosystem where every innovation can be actually registered, sort of thing, as far as I understand. So anything wrong or anything which is not part of that innovation model, I'm looking at it, excuse me, I'm looking at this as an infrastructure where every single innovation in this world can be stored or registered or can be tracked. And if anything goes wrong, even I'm looking at the warlike scenarios, when these three technologies are used for something really bad. So there is a way of actually monitoring what has evolved, what has been innovated, and if whatever is coming across, just like all these ransomwares and the viruses we had in past few years. I mean, this is what happened because people didn't know where this was coming from. And if we had an innovation model or a platform where everything is registered, then if something comes which is not registered or part of the system, then we know exactly what's going on. So this is what VChain is trying to do, which is very nice at the end of the day. Now, one last question, Ali. We're talking about these three technologies and the future. So the way I see it is, how many years before, I mean, I go out from my house and I don't have to do anything, and there's eggs in my fridge, and that are like only one left. my fridge automatically orders the egg to my vendor. The vendor comes and delivers the egg, and he gets paid automatically.
Yeah.
When will we reach? How many years? Or is it a possibility?
Yeah. If we look around, then what I think is that within the next 6 to 7 years, the growth would be slower, but then it would be embraced across if it goes through this particular next 6 years, because there are now challenges as well, which are opportunities as well. Like, for example, things like COVID-19, right? So on one hand, it has stopped interaction among them. So forcing people to actually find out solutions. So previously, those solutions which were not economically viable, now people say, okay, how machine could be automated, or the process could be automated, how people should not interact. So there would be models that would come up, right? So within the next 6 to 7 years, if they go through well, then the technology would be embraced quite much better. In the next 2 years, it would become mainstream. There are a lot of things, like stack availability that we talked about, that needs to be there. All the things evolve perfectly with their own evolution, and there is no massive problem that comes up. Just like the quantum computing, okay, now the blockchain hashes and everything is kind of breakable quite much in an instant. So if those things happen, I think within the next 7 to 8 years, we would see something quite much positive.
So this is a possibility in near future.
Yeah,
It is
and
going to happen.
yeah, it is. And surely it looks like, because of the economic advantages and the way human society has to evolve, these things will actually happen. So I see that such a thing. Maybe I have a bias because I'm in the technology world and I want such a world to happen. So that's why I'm saying across. But I think that's the way things would move forward. And scenarios would become very much interesting as well, as you specified that, okay, there is based on your consumption of eggs, AI will see, should I order or should I not order, and based on that it would place a order, and a drone will come and deliver it to your place, or a robot will come and deliver it to your place, and you are paid across based on the smart contracts and the payments on the blockchain. So, like, it would be more complex than that. There are many other examples that, from a smart city perspective, that are there. Uh, Energy grid, for example. That, okay, I have the solar devices as well. I am generating my own electricity as well. I have equipment available if I want to buy the electricity based on the smart contracts, based on this autonomous agent. I'll find out where I can get the cheapest electricity. I'll have that. Maybe I can sell it back to the grid as well. And things like this are happening. Companies like, for example, Grid Plus or Power AI, they are trying to work in these particular areas. And there could be examples that I want to go somewhere. So on a distributed map, I select my destination. As I do that on Google, for example, when I reach that place, I have to find the parking. So AI-based agents in every site are collecting the data. What are the free parking spaces across? They are publishing them on a blockchain network along with their rates. This agent on my side sees, by this time I will reach that. It goes and book that particular parking place. Rather than my location, it will take me to that parking place. I'll park over there. Once I leave my car, it is going to automatically do the payment. If there are any barriers, that will open automatically. So possibilities are endless. If we combine all the three technologies together, there would be a huge number of use cases. But again, it could create something like that, a lot of jobs which are just for these uh, uh, connecting purposes. The technology will directly connect. So what will happen to that? So I think that's a more ethical question to ask, how things will happen on that front, because again, the world would destabilize because a lot of jobs will go, but at the same time, a lot of jobs would be new roles and jobs would be created in the technology arena. Let's see how things evolve. We are in interesting times, I think.
Obviously, I mean, especially you guys are sitting there. I mean, and based out of Dubai, in UAE. So obviously, Dubai has evolved drastically. I mean, it's become the blockchain city of the world at this moment. So how do you see Dubai government is taking all this innovation, and what is their approach? So our government can learn, or government in the developing countries can learn from it.
Okay, so they have this particular appetite to actually embark and learn based on new technologies. They know, with our experience, they know that okay, technology is promising, but unless and until somebody applies that practically, you would not know what will be the potential or what would be the challenges. So with that, they are going toward embracing the technologies in own areas, and their leadership has also shown quite much interest. So that's why we see a lot of things happening across based on the government. In the rest of the world, it is not the government; it is individuals and the private organizations who's trying to create ecosystems. Here, the government itself is trying to create the ecosystems, and the private sector is following. So that's interesting, quite much interesting.
Yeah, we have three verticals. Any message, or I would love to take a message from you for these three verticals. One is the private sector, the other is the governments, and the third is our developer community or the entrepreneurial landscape in Pakistan. What do
Okay.
you suggest for them looking at the future?
Okay, so to our entrepreneurial community and the developer community, uh, what is happening across is phenomenal, and there are a lot of opportunities for the future as well. There is ideas that are required, and technology is so much open that everybody can learn and move forward. So this gives an opportunity for all of our community to think about, and rather than just being the followers, be the technology leaders. Because if you will come up with new ideas, there are a lot of technologies means to implement that. So if we can evolve, because everybody could evolve these particular days, so we should always look toward, rather than embracing traditional technology stack, we should look towards the emerging technology stack and try to do something there, because there are more chances when things will evolve, you would have a more share in the pie. For the private sector, again, the use of technology has to be with the cost and benefit analysis. So again, things like blockchain, if it is not providing you that particular advantage, maybe it is not actually the right time. So just implementing the technology without realizing that advantage is not something that is like a wise decision. So let's wait for it. Let market be right. And in terms of Pakistan, there are a number of other level of automations that we need to reach. We need to have electronic enablement of everything, and then we can talk about AI or about blockchain. So that is something which is very, very much important.
Sure. Ali, tell me something about the GOV token, the government tokens, or I mean, looking at our Pakistani government, what would you suggest? I mean, Sindh government has taken a great step, I think, and I think this has happened due to the involvement of World Bank as well. Yes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what would you suggest are the federal government? What roadmap should they take, or what should be their first step in adopting this technology? Should they launch a token or a decentralized cryptocurrency or a
Okay.
digital?
What I think that see, basic level fitness for country first should be there. How much information is digitized? First, we need to have digitized information available, which is clean. So all what will happen on top of it. So for the governments to be automated, for example, over here in UAE, they identified certain pillars that okay, going with the ad hoc strategy might not work, but there are certain pillars that needs to be there first. One of them is a digital identity. If you do not have a digital identity, how would you digitally interact with some digital services? There's no use for it, right? So they created digital identity first. Now they realize that with blockchain as well, okay, there could be many implementation of blockchain, but they come up with the concept of a vault, that all the government documents and individual are available in a vault first, that is shareable across entity, right? So there are certain basic building blocks that needs to be there first. A country to operate, one important other channel is payments. There should be some way to digitally pay as well. Otherwise, what will happen? People will work in the cash. There would not be any incentive to do like not work without the cash. So there has to be electronic mechanisms as well for the payments. We are in an era where we first need to get these basics right, and then I think we would be able to ride on the technological revolutions, because all of them built on these basic things that comes first at the lower level.
Thank you so much, Ali. Thank you so much. Ali, I mean, really great talking to you, very refreshing. Learned some really great things today. And I'm very hopeful with the future that awesome things are happening even in Pakistan as well. So, thank you for coming today. And we'll get back to you. And hopefully, inshallah, in the next few months, we'll talk to you about Collaborates again.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Thank you.
It was nice talking to you, Rashid. And
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you.